Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Denver, Colorado. I'm so glad you could join me today. I have a pretty little birthday card for you today, and I'm working with some of the new material out of the new catalog. It's great fun. I'm working with the Expressions in Ink specialty designer paper, and I'm working with Elegantly Said. And it's very pretty. That paper is just stunning. I think you're going to like it. Let's just get started. Okay, here is my card. Isn't it pretty? I just love the soft colors in this paper. And this paper, again, is called Expressions in Ink Specialty Designer Series paper. And this is the piece that I'm working with for this part. And it's very different paper. I'm going to show you here what the paper looks like and show you exactly what I did to cut it. So here is a page of that beautiful paper, and on the other side is this pattern. Now you look at that and you say, how in the world am I going to cut that and get some use out of it with all of that white? But the piece that I'm using for the background is just like this, and I'll show you how to cut it so you can really utilize it. So here is that in pink, and the colors for this paper are Evening Evergreen, Just Jade, Magenta Madness, Mint Macaron, Pale Papaya, Pear Pizzazz, Polished Pink, Shaded Spruce, and Whisper White. Now, I ended up using a couple of different colors with it, but look at that, isn't it? It's just beautiful, but again, confusing when you first look at it. So let me show you the rest of the paper. So you know, this is the piece that I used to make my card. You can see that here. And then there is, on the back of that is this kind of a watercolor wash. Then there's this one that has these beautiful big flowers on it, and I gave some consideration. I think if I were to step this one up a little bit more even, I might just fussy cut out a couple of these flowers and put them on the front of the card. And then it's got this kind of green wash on the back. Then there's one with this papaya wash on the back, and that is this one. And they're just beautiful papers. So look at that, isn't that pretty together? It's just beautiful. Anyway, the way you cut this, and let's see, this is the one I think that I used, is you put this on your trimmer and you cut it right down the center. This is at least what I did. I don't know what others are doing, but I cut it this way right at the 6-inch mark. So it came out like this. And then I made my panels 4 by 5 1/4, 3 3/4 by 5 from this piece. So you can get 4 inches, 4 inches, and 4 inches. So you end up getting 6 panels out of here. And when you cut them down, like for instance, this is one. If that's cut right at that mark, what you're going to do is cut this part away. And then what you end up getting is you get strips like this that are left on the end, and you can use them, but they're completely white on the other side, but you can use them on the inside of your card. And I'll show you on this one what I did. I just used a slim 1/2-inch piece and then a strip of this paper to go in here, and then some dots, and we'll talk about that. I'm going to change up that inside a little bit, but it seemed to me that that was the best way to use this, to cut it right down the center at 6 inches and then make your panels go from there to the end, and so you're not utilizing any of this stuff on the ends, and you still have all of this exceptionally beautiful stuff in the middle. So that is what I think you would need to do. This one is very cool in that if you cut that at 6 and you did your panels again, from the middle out, you get the same kind of an effect. And on many of the cards, when you think about it, like the one that I made here, you have another focal piece on it. So you just organize the focal piece. In this case, I pushed the focal piece. This isn't exactly the same piece of paper, but in this case, I might make it go up here. Or stamp one of these beautiful flowers. Let me show you this stamp set. There is the stamp set, and it has some of this same watercolor wash, and I think this is distinctive. I'm not sure. So it has, the stamp itself has the lighter and the darker pieces. So if you stamp that in Bermuda Bay, you'd get dark Bermuda Bay, and then you'd get lighter bits in there. Same thing with the flowers. And when you look at these flowers in here, that's pretty much what they've done. If you do that in Magenta Magic, then what you're going to get is lighter pieces and darker pieces. And I haven't had a chance to work with that part yet, but for this I did use these three little things here and the splatter, and I will continue working with this and using some of these to get some different effects. But that would be beautiful stamped over here in a complementary color, or masked this in another one, or this and this one, or add more of this kind of stuff over here. You could also use your heat and stick powder and use some of the gilding flakes to match the pattern across in the gold. So lots and lots of things I think that we can do with this paper, and I'll continue to work with it to show at least my interpretation of how that might all work. So in the end, let me show you what we need to make this card. So I brought out all of the panels that I cut so we could just pick which one we wanted to use for this card. I did use my dies from the Forever Flourishing dies. I used this die, and then I used the shimmer vellum that we got, and I cut two of those big giant leaves, because I found that in messing around I kind of burned up one of them. But to add my greenery around this card, somehow I see what happened. I don't have enough glue on the back of this to make that stick down. So I'll just add some, and then just add this down here to the bottom. And we're going to change this card up a little bit and add some more pieces to it and make it a little bit more stepped up than this one. This one's pretty basic, although it's very pretty. But the inside is just the back of the card, and I do want to add some layers to the inside. I prefer cards that are done that way. So I did use the Forever Flourishing dies, and I did use the Color Contour dies. So what I ended up using on this was the third one in, which is this one, to cut out my little panel of flowers. And what you need is, I used, I'll show you here, you get 3 of these out of 1 strip of paper, and this strip of paper was originally 2 3/4, and you can get 3 panels like that out of 1 strip of 2 3/4. So across a whole 12 by 12 page, you can get quite a few of those panels out of that. I cut this larger one out of white, and I used mint macaron. So let me back up. What we are going to start with is a base of basic white, the thick basic white that is 8.5 by 5.5 scored and folded at 4 1/4, and that is our base. Then I have 2 panels of the mint macaron that are 4 by 5 1/4, one for the inside and one for the outside. So we have 2 of those. Then I have this piece, which is 4 inches by 2 3/4, and that is to back my little piece of paper. And I went ahead and put in here all 3 panels that I cut out, so we can pick the one that works the best with the design that we're doing here. So then you need 1 panel like this, and like I said, you need a piece that is 2 3/4 wide and one that is probably 4 inches long, at least, to get this cut out. So there's that piece. Then we have our panels for the background, and these are the panels that I cut. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. And we can, depending on what exactly we do, we would pick one of these, and this one seems real logical here, maybe for this particular design. And we can mess around with whether or not we want to add any stamping on this end. But so one of these panels that is going to be cut down, I think I started out, well, this matches my colors a little bit better, maybe we'll use this one. But actually that's got both. So they need to be cut down to 3 3/4 by 5, which I will do, and obviously I'll cut off the white end, and then maybe this little bottom piece or a piece off of here, because I want this darker color on there. So we'll cut this down to 3 3/4 by 5, and then I used, out of those dies, which are the contour dies, I used the second largest one to cut out a piece of white. And so this is cut so that it's 4 1/2. So you need something that's 5 by 3 1/2 and to cut out this particular piece. And I thought I would step this one up and have this be the place to write your sentiment on the inside of the card, so that we're not just doing just the back of this card here. And then I have my leaves cut out of the Evening Evergreen Shimmer Vellum. And I think that, oh, and then we have a little piece of white scrap so that we can do our sentiment. So on this one, I'm thinking if we use this, because I want to center this one this time, I think. I'm going to use that one. Okay, so there we go. We've got all of our pieces here, and we can start by just doing our stamping. And I have a piece of basic white here, and I have my stamp mounted, and my stamp I used from Elegantly Said, wishing you a wonderful birthday. I just love that stamp. So that's what we're going to do our stamping. And the ink that I used for this, I used both Just Jade and Mint Macaron. So here's my wishing you a wonderful birthday, which desperately needs to be cleaned off. So I will do that. Okay, and I did that in Just Jade in a little bit darker ink. The Mint Macaron was so light that it didn't show up well. So I'll be doing my stamping on wishing you a wonderful birthday. So I'm going to set that down here in this corner. Hopefully I'll, well, it's almost straight. Let me try that again. There we go. It looks like that's still not quite straight. Well, I'm going to trim this up and to make it straight. And the way you do that is you get your you get your piece on your cutter until you're sure that your words are straight. Then you cut along the edge, and that's pretty good. So now I've got a straight edge. So now I can cut this piece away, and then I've got two straight sides, and I should be able to trim up the bottom by getting these two pieces on here straight and my edge on there. Now I've got three sides that are straight, and I just need to trim that up. All right, so there I go. I've got one that's perfectly straight. And you can straighten out anything that way by just cutting around. So there we go. There's our sentiment all ready to go. We have a little bit more stamping to do. If we decide particularly that we want to do some of the Magenta Madness or the papaya along in here with those stamps. And I think I will. Okay, so we have to decide here what we're going to do. So what I've done is I've gotten my pale papaya ink here, and I've got my big flower mounted from the Artistically Inked. And I'm going to put that one full strength right up here. There we go. And see, it's got the light parts and the dark parts. And I think I'm just going to fill in and stamp it again, because it's supposed to be all this artistic stuff. So I'm going to do that and just kind of fill in some stamping there. Now I've got this other, I guess it's Magenta Madness, isn't it? Okay, this one scares me. It's so pronounced that we'll see what happens if we use this one, and I think I'm going to practice this one over here first. If we do that, then we get that. Well, that actually looks pretty good. So I am going to stamp that once right up there, once right up there, and maybe once kind of partially on right down here. There we go. Now we've got all of the colors represented on our panel, and it does look a little bit of a hot mess, but I think in the end it's going to be great, and we'll know for sure in a minute. Okay, so if I wanted to do some leaves on this, I do have my leaves mounted. At the risk of just overdoing, I think I'm going to take one set of these leaves, and I'm doing this in the mint macaron, and I'm going to stick some leaves right in there, and I think that that looks just fine. In fact, maybe I'll do another set of them. Let me bring back my and do some kind of off on this side. And you know, that might just be enough. I don't want to overcrowd that panel. Okay, so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, so now we're ready to put some more of this panel together. So now I'm going to just adhere this little piece to the mint macaron panel. Oh, this wasn't the piece I was going to use though, was it? I was going to use the one that had more of the papaya in it. Yep, that's the one I want to use. Well, I will stick this one on one of my silicone mats until I can figure out how to get that off of there. And so I'm going to go ahead and put this panel down instead. There we go. So this panel right down here, and I'm going to center this one more on here so that it is showing all of the colors, and that way I get some of this darker color over in this corner. I suppose I could do that, but I kind of like the idea of it centered. Okay, so this piece is now ready to go on one of my 4 by 5 1/4 mint macaron panels. And let me just get some of my seal down here. Okay, so there is my panel glued down. Now then, this is ready to go on the front of my card, and I will put some seal on this. All right, very good. Now, then this piece is going to go centered on this. Now, what I did was I took some of these leaves and I trimmed them off so that I could put them where I wanted them. So I've got a couple of little stems of leaves here. There we go. I've got 3 stems of leaves there. And this I think I want up on dimensionals. But first I think I'd better decide where I want my leaves. So I'm going to start cutting off some of these leaf stems. So if I had leaves on both sides of this, and I also want to use a little piece of this ribbon. Now I ended up putting this ribbon underneath this sentiment across here, and I think I want it more prominent, so I'm going to cut it so it will fit and go all the way along that entire strip. So I've got it cut going that way, so I'm going to cut it right about there, and let's see, I think that's going to be just fine. So this I know for sure is going to go down on this piece, and I think I want my sentiment a little higher than I had it on that other one, but going across here, and there we go. All right, then I want some leaves on the back of this, and I'm thinking what I'm going to do is ink this up or glue this up so that I can put my leaves just kind of wherever I want them. So if I did a group there, and then I could do another smaller group right here next to it, and some leaves there, and a few like that. I think that looks pretty good. Now I just need to add some glue to that, and because this panel is going to be raised, I'm going to leave this one not raised, and I'm going to center it on that ribbon, but I think I am going to push it over to one side a little. Well, maybe not. Center that on that ribbon like that. Now then, I did put a few of those dots in the mint macaron on this piece, just so that it wasn't quite so stark white, and that color is light enough that I can add a few dots to this and it will be just fine. There we go. Maybe a couple more right up here at the top. Perfect. Okay, so that is on that panel, and that's looking pretty good. Now then, I need to arrange, I need a couple of leaves for the inside. Maybe those two will work. And I have cut two of these big spray of leaves so that I would have plenty of choices for my card here. So now it's a matter of figuring out where, and what I'm going to do is just add some glue to the corners, and then I'm going to go ahead and put this up on dimensionals, but this will allow me to have my leaves, because on this one they're all flat on the card, and I may want to put some flat on the card, but I may also want to have some attached to the actual card piece itself. Okay, now I need to add some dimensionals. Look how that changes everything up. It's amazing. Amazing, amazing. So I am going to add one more leaf across the top here, and I'm going to use my silicone mat because I'm going to lay that one sort of down right on the card itself. So I'm going to add that one right there, I think. There we go. Isn't that pretty? I'm just tickled to death with that. Okay, now for the inside of our card, what we're going to do is take this piece that's been die cut, and we're going to add some seal to it. And add that to the center of our mint macaron panel here. There we go. Now I have my strips of paper to go on the inside. And these are way too big, so I want them to be trimmed so that they'll fit inside the stitching. So I'm going to cut this piece here and just a little bit more off of that, and then we'll take a measurement on this and see how this little strip ends up being. It's a 1/2 inch wide, and it looks like it's just under 2 3/4, and I'm going to add some snail to it, and I'm going to set it right here on this edge. Now it's still a little bit long. There we go. All right, now then this piece is going to go right down the middle of that, and I'm going to mark that and cut it off right there. And I'm going to add some snail to it. And send that in place. It's also just a hair long. All right, so that is on there now. And I have a couple of leaves, and I'm going to lift this corner up here just a little so I can stick those stems underneath that corner. There we go. And I can add a little bit of glue to one of those leaves to get that to stick down just a little bit. So there is the inside. Now I do have these dots, and I still have my mint macaron open over here, so maybe I will just add a few mint macaron dots there like that. All right, there we go. That is all we need for the inside of our card. And so this is ready to go down on the inside of the card. Okay, there we go. And so that is just a bit stepped up. It looks like I better put some glue on the backs of a couple of these leaves here so that they'll stick down just a little bit better. A couple of these are off the edge just a little bit, and be careful when you do yours so that they'll be sure and fit inside an envelope. Even though these are raised because they're on the back of this part of the sentiment, you can also just go along and trim those off. On this one, I used some of our gold pearls. And I thought on this one I would switch that up as well and use some of these genial gems. They've got this kind of goldy color which matches the gold here, and it also matches the papaya. And then these green ones, and let's just see which of these works better on the card. And I don't know if these would get lost. I think I'm going to do the green ones. So I'm going to take a couple of these green gems and set them around on the card, and I'm using the larger ones. That is my project for the day. So here is the first one that I made that is a little simpler in that it has just a few leaves. It's got a little bit of ribbon underneath it, and it is just, there's no additional panels on the inside. And on this one I did use, in the stamp set there is this stamp, which is these 3 little flowers, and I stamped them a couple of times on the inside here along with some of those dots. And on this one, my space is so much smaller, I just used a little bit of the splatter. So, and this one is stepped up a little bit more in that it has this raised panel and a fancier cut for where I'm writing my sentiment on the inside. So, and I'll have to say that adding this stamp on the background of this where there's so much white, I'm very pleased with the way that that came out. So that on some of these other panels, I wouldn't hesitate for a second using that one, especially that one large stamp. I think that would be kind of fun to do in the pink, and just add that around on some of these, and maybe even do some more of the leaves in some of these other green colors to match whatever my panel came out looking like. So you can end up with a panel that looks completely full, as still has that pretty gold stuff in it, which I think is gorgeous, and you could add more with the leafing if that's what you chose to do. But I couldn't be more pleased with how this card came out. And I do think I like the stepped up version a little bit more. I like being able to see more of that pretty papaya ribbon. And I love the scallops on this for the inside. And so there we go. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. I do so appreciate it. And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, well, I'd love to be your demonstrator. And or you could join my team. There's a terrific offer this month, in the month of May, $155 worth of product for a $99 purchase for your starter kit. And of course you get to pick whatever you want for your starter kit. I've already had a couple people take advantage of it. And yes, it's a great offer. And you would join a wonderful team. I love my team. I've got a bunch of folks all across the country, and we communicate. Actually, for as far apart as we are, we stay very connected and do a lot of back and forth calling and talking with one another, and we have Zoom meetings so we can see one another. And of course, when we can get together and have conventions again, I'll be able to spend some one-on-one time with my folks. And we have lots of resources that are available to the team. We have experts in social media, and I have technical support. I have people that understand. We have a database program for helping you keep your stuff organized and giving you the ability to find things more easily. We have, and most of those are free resources. We do blog hops. I have someone that can help you build a blog, create a website, do all kinds of crazy things. And I'd love to have you on my team. So give some thought to it. If you buy a lot of Stampin' Up! Stuff, you're probably leaving money on the table. You might as well take advantage of the discount and become a demonstrator. And you can leave it at that, or you can take it further. And I've had some people that came on just for a discount a couple years ago and have now decided they want to do more with their Stampin' Up! Demonstratorship. And so I'm happy to move them along at whatever their definition of success is. And I have lots of folks on my team who just want the discount and don't want to do anything else. And that is absolutely fine as well. So give it some thought. My information is always listed below the video, and you can give me a call and I'd be happy to chat with you about it. So that's it for me today. I will be back soon with more cards, more projects, and more tips. And my prize this month is a $60 shopping spree on me. And you can put yourself in the drawing by putting an order of any size on my store, lbedinger.stampinup.net. And you can get to it through my blog, www.inkandingenuity.com. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. It helps me quite a bit when you do. Thanks again for joining me. I'll be back soon. Bye.